evening and welcome back once again to Formula Racing League. We are back once again with some fantastic rFactor 2 action, and we have a new season to bring to you. A change of day from last season's Tuesday, but the same frantic action. The tracks being featured this season are Hockenhiem, which we are at now, Adelaide in Australia, Sonoma in the US of A, Suzuka, yeah, I'll go with that, in Japan, and Thruxton in the UK. So 4 continents in 5 rounds of action. This is truly a world tour. We've just come into the end of practice now, where qualifying will commence, which will be 15 minutes. The race 1 will be set by qualifying, which will be 20 minutes. Race 2 will be another 20-minute race, the grid being set by the finishing positions of race 1, and race 3 will be a random grid position, which will be a reverse grid from a random grid position, which will be confirmed by our lovely techie Tom. The German, in terms of the circuit itself and Hockenheim, the German town of Hockenheim has become synonymous with motor racing thanks to its famous circuit, which has transformed from a high-speed blast through the forest to a thoroughly modern autodrome. As we can see, drivers crashing into each other in practice. After extensive modification by the one and only Hilman Tilk, the current circuit may have lost some of its unique flat-out characteristics, but this has produced a circuit which is conducive to good racing. Financial difficulties have meant that it's stepped away from hosting Formula 1 in recent years. However, it does maintain a large roster of racing events and remains one of the most used circuits in Germany. We'll be using the short circuit for tonight's race, which is just 1.6 miles long, has 8 corners to the right and 4 to the left. And we are here for some amazing action. I'm sure you cannot wait. There are lots of new names on the grid, which I can see. So Sam Exton is a new name. Cameron Hawes is not new to Formula Racing League, but is new to rFactor 2. I'm trying to figure out why everything is going so glitchy. Let's hope it's not like that throughout the race. Dan Davis, last season's champion, is back out with us. Joe Coffin is a new name. Marcin Morel, who's a driver we saw at length last season. Matthew Duffin has taken part in a number of endurance events. Andrea Badotto in the BMW, another ACC driver with Dominic Panto. Alan Palmer, we're hoping his VR headset lasts him very well. Rudolf Rio same livery as last season. Thomas Veit, a new name. Andy Withers, who recently joined the Discord in the Napa Ford. Antonio Nobda, Adrian Samsel, another new name, and then we got quite a few very, very familiar names. Unfortunately, Sergio was unable to make tonight's race, and we hope to see him on the grid in the not too distant future. So we currently have 21 cars on the grid in, like I said, 1.6 miles of racing track. So it's going to be intense and something to definitely try and keep an eye on throughout this race. So currently our P1 sitter is, again, another new name to rFactor 2, but not a new name to us. It is the flying Swede himself, Benjamin Eck, which sets the time as a light with a 105.4. See if we can get actual timings up. So he's already up on his personal best time. Cameron Hawes is up on his as well. So let's have see if we can find a driver coming towards the end of their lap to have a little bit of a tour around the circuit and see how the circuit treats them. So where is Benjamin? Benjamin is just in a little bit of traffic, currently going slightly faster. However, the traffic in front has cost him dearly. So we're going through the final 2 corners now onto the start-finish straight. There is a drag strip on the left-hand side, which causes some great problems in the wet, as you may have seen from probably that most infamous of Formula 1 races. So going down into turn 1 is a right-hander braking around the 70 metre ball. Cut the inside curve as much as you can. Careful not to drift too far wide. and invalidate the lap into a tight right-hand hairpin to get the power down once more. Bring the car over to the right-hand side of the track for a quick left at full throttle. Ben was 1/10 of a second down from his personal best there. Sweeping left-hand corner into a tight right modified hairpin by the looks of things. Getting the power down again to skip through the chicane. Patient on the throttle for this long right-hander, and Ben decides that that was his moment to dive into the pits. But we'll join our current pole sitter, Joe Coffin, who is just letting some traffic through. And the corner which I wanted to bring everyone's attention to is this left-hander here. Probably one of the most famous corners for what cost Sebastian Vettel a chance of a title against Lewis Hamilton, where he slid off in very damp conditions and went straight agonisingly into the wall. So no wet conditions today, but certainly not the warmest. I think track temperatures are around 2 or 3 degrees. So yeah, not warm. So drivers yet to set a lap are Martin Sorosky, who is currently on track at the moment, 0.6 of a second down, and Christek Jones, who has yet to leave the pits. We'll stay on board with Martin as he goes through the last sector, currently 1.3 seconds down from the fastest lap of Joe Coffin of a 104.4. Going through the final corner now. Is this going to be a lap time for Martin? It is, and that pops him all the way up into P11, so a fantastic little lap from him. So Sam Exton, one of the new drivers racing in the Vauxhall, just coming through the final corner now, 1.1 seconds down on his personal best time. Cameron Hawes is currently 2.3 down from the fastest lap of Joe Coffin. So remember, we do have 3 races tonight, and the qualifying is very important for race 1, and not necessarily for race 2, because it's the final finishing positions. I'm just trying to figure out if I can straighten out the standing so it's just one long list rather than changing. We'll go with the banner, shall we, for now? There we go. And also realise I've been a naughty boy and not have the logos in. Looks like I need to move that. Sorry, any questions as to why this is being emotional? I had to do a complete factory reset of my PC, and I've had to reinstall the game. I only actually had the game installed about 2 minutes before qualifying started, so running on the fly to try and get as much sorted as possible. Don't forget as well, we do have 2 fantastic streams this week. We also have multiple fantastic streams. We have Taco Tuesday season kicking off tomorrow evening, which will be at the wondrous Kyalami circuit in South Africa. On Thursday night we have the Masters and Rookies, so the Italian Stallion will kick off the proceedings for the Masters, and we have a new voice to titillate those eardrums for the Rookie season. We also have round 2 of the PlayStation Late Night season kicking off on Tuesday, and for the life of me I cannot remember the track, so we have plenty of racing action this week. We also are running the very wide from Cameron. We are also running the World Rally Championships within the Discord server as well, and also Formula 1. So we have lots of races ongoing in Formula Racing League to make sure you don't miss out on any of the fun. So interestingly enough, Marcin Morel, who pushed Dan Davis a long way in the championship last season, currently resides in 8th place. Theodore Ivanov was unfortunately not able to make round 1 tonight, but hopefully see him on track this season. But car number 88, Marcin Morel, running in 8th place on an outlap. Our leaderboard is taken up by the new guys. So we've got Joe Coffin in P1 with a 104.491. Benjamin Eck currently in the pits on a 104.6. Then we've got Cameron Hawes, Sam Exton, and then David Goodway, who's just on a slow lap at the moment, trying to get some space for a tilt at P1. So the grid is separated by roughly 3.2 seconds to the back position of Andy Withers. There are a lot of drivers driving using VR, and I suppose that's an interesting thing to be able to drive in VR. Probably brings an additional level of realism. So we saw Andy there pop himself into P16 and gaining a number of positions. Let's see if we got any drivers who are out on the lap at the moment. Benek is just starting an out lap. There is David Goodway, currently 2 tenths down in sector 1, just under 5 tenths down overall from P1 driver Joe Coffin. Yes, Derek, James, always on comms, never a driver. Alan Brown, good luck everyone tonight. Stream's lagging a bit, yes, it is. I'm doing my best to work on as many things as possible to make it not laggy. That's not slow for Dave, that's reverse. Right, okay. So yes, I am doing my best to try and make sure things are running smoother, but as mentioned, I've had to do a complete factory reset of my machine, and I think it might have been the stand-ins board that was causing the problems. So another new name, David Dokolecki in the BMW. So Benek is up in sector 2. Is this one of the last pushes for Ben going across the start-finish line? Is this going to bring him close to P1? Drifting wide for the final corner, hammer down and across the start-finish line, and that keeps him in P2. Lost 2.5 tenths through the final sector there, and essentially was about 4 tenths down overall on the fastest lap. See if anyone else. Adrian Samsel, 1.5 seconds down in sector 1, 2.6 down on the overall fastest lap. That's not going to be the quickest way to exit that corner, I'm afraid. Ben is 9 tenths down, possibly on a cool down lap. Dave Goodway is just about to start a new lap, so let's jump on board our current P3 driver. We have a yellow flag in sector 1, which Dave is going through now. Cut the curb on the right hand side, try and stay within track limits. That looked as though he was able to, into this tricky right hander, patient on the throttle. There is the car on the left hand side who's just returned to garage. Stay as tight as you can to the left hand side and breathe the car back over to the right hand side. Another car in the gravel on the left, through the fast left-hander, taking as much track limits as possible, and that is a spin out from Dave Goodway. You had your moment of potential fame to be on stream for your qualifying lap, and sadly you were unable to do so. 2 minutes left of qualifying, and the grid will be set for race 1. No, Gedman has not arrived yet by the looks of things, and we've seemed to have lost a driver as well, so we're down to 21. Car going backwards across the track is never going to be a good thing. Matthew Duffin just starting a new lap. We've got 1.5 minutes left of qualifying. before our first race of the season. Remember, you have 3 races in total, each lasting 20 minutes. For the overall round 1 winner of Btcc World Tour. Next we head to Australia. Yellow flag again in Sector 1. Matthew 6/10 down, which takes him outside what he needs. Dan Davis, his teammate and friend, is just starting another lap. That looks very quick through turn 1, drifting wide again. The only time I think I've ever raced on this circuit was potentially in Project Cars 2 in the Formula 1 style cars. Enjoyed taking that right hander at full throttle immensely, and then panicking ahead of the break-in zone for turn 1. But Dan Davis currently in 7th position. Remember, champion last season in Btcc season 1. Had great battles with Dave Goodway, Marcin Morel and Theodore Ivanov. Once again, Theodore unfortunately not able to make round 1, but Dan Davis hugs the apex, drifts over to the right hand side. Now he keeps the throttle down. He's currently about 0.3 of a second down. He was 0.6 down overall. Has a little bit of traffic going through the last corner, but that might give him a little bit of slipstream. This will be his final lap. Dan Davis goes from P7 to P6, so only 1 position gain there. Dave Goodway is out on track. He has gone through Sector 1. He is 0.2 down. He's 2.66 seconds down overall. Our P1, P2 and P4 drivers are all in the pits, so this is the only opportunity for Dave to really make a dent into those drivers, and I don't think he's going to be able to do so. Currently 0.4 of a second down from the leader, Harrison Williams, who competed a number of occasions last time around in P9th, and that is his qualifying done. Andrea Bedotto has just gone straight on. He is in P11. Is Tom Techie Tom's just coming through the final corner, 2.3 seconds down this lap, and he was 2.1 down overall. So is this going to be a new fastest lap for Tom? I don't think so. Nope, he remains in P15. Sam Exton, I don't think this is a valid lap. I think this is after the timer, so our grid has been set for race 1. We have Chris Jones in P22, Mark Stewart in 21, Adrian Samsel in 20th, Antonio Notta in 19th, Alan Palmer in 18th, Rudolph Brio in 17th position, Andy Withers in 16th, Techie Tom in 15th, Marcin Salowski in 14th, Thomas Veit in 13th, Dominic Panto in 12th position, Andrea Bedotto in 11th, Marcin Morel in 10th, Harrison Williams in 9th, David Dukalecki in 8th position, Matthew Duffin in 7th, Dan Davis in 6th, Sam Exton in 5th position, Cameron Hawes in 4th, Dave Goodway in 3rd, Benjamin Eck in 2nd, and Joe Coffin in P1. That is our grid for our first race of the race of the night. We have a short interlude before that happens of 5 minutes. I will leave you with the driver on track while I try and play with some settings in the background. So we have Dan Davis out on the track for you, so enjoy. Right, I think I have played with some settings and hopefully it will be okay. I'll turn off the timer board for the first lap or two. First lap to be able to get the information. We see Benek locking up. That is such a horrible hairpin. As we're on board with David now, just going through Sector 1. We have a yellow flag in Sector 2. We have 22 cars on the grid for this very, very short track. Just interesting to see how these drivers are trying to take that hairpin. We've got Dan Davis, who's just coming up to start another lap now, skipping as much as that curve is legally allowed, and Dan's pulling over to the side and has gone into the pits. Coming towards the end of the practice session, I think that will be the end of Matt Duffins. He's pulled into his space and is going to get a start. Doesn't want to do that. Sounded as good as me once I passed my driving test in a Ford Ka, to be honest. And yes, so I'm not there till race 2, just in the server to be ready for enough, Chris. Go Tomke, go. Lee. And yes, indeed, it is a pretty quick field. So let's turn off some things as the drivers make their final preparation to join the grid here at Hockenhiem for round 1 of the Btcc Season 2 World Tour, featuring 4 continents over 5 rounds of action. We start off in Europe, then we go to North America, then we go to Australia, then North America, then Asia, and then back to Blighty at Thruxton for the final round of the championship. Let's have a look what Benek is looking at going down into turn 1. An ultimate flashpoint straight away. Could potentially be that fast right-hander. Looking at Sam Exton making his full FRL debut, Joe Coffin making his FRL debut, Benjamin Egg, Dave Goodway, Cameron Hawes, Sam Exton. We are going to go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we are go for round 1 here at Hockenhiem. Great start by Joe Coffin. Benjamin Egg gets bogged down at the start, and the car's going to go around the outside, going down into turn 1 now. Largely clean. Benek forcing the driver over to the wide, but a great start by Joe Coffin. Cameron Hawes against Benek going down through Sector 2. 20 seconds has already gone in a blink of an eye. So Coffin, Eck, Dan Davis all the way up to 4th, getting swallowed by Dave Goodway on his left hand side. And what the hell happened there to that car in front? Go through the horrible hairpin. There is the BMW. Oh, crash! Death! More death! And who is that? That is Dave Goodway. The luck doesn't seem to be happening for Dave in any rFactor 2 event by the looks of things. But right up front we have Joe Coffin versus Cameron Hawes going to complete lap 1. A little bit of a gap to Dan Davis in 3rd place, Matthew Duffin in 4th, Exton in 5th, Zlowski in 6th, Andrea Badotto in 7th, Alan Palmer in 8th, Tom Brunel in 9th, Andy Withers in 13th place. And I assume then Benek was one of the first drivers to really feel the pain of lap 1 as he goes for an overtake down the inside, and that's successfully completed up into 12th position, 13th position, and now sets his eyes on Rudolph directly in front, but Cameron Hawes all over the back of Joe Coffin. Joe making his once again making his first start in Formula Racing League through the famous Vettel hairpin. Complete another lap. Coffin, as you can see, in the black Toyota with the Honda of Cameron Hawes directly behind, trying to look for a chink in the armour, and that is already a big gap to Dan Davis in third place. Duffin is under pressure from Sam Exton coming out with that final corner. He's going to try and make a squeezy move up the inside. He's thinking about it. Matthew defends by moving across to the right hand side into the braking zone for turn 1. They are side by side, as we would never know, because everything wants to cry and crash. Matthew Duffin has dropped now down into 5th place. Sam Exton up to 4th place. Tom has passed Alan Palmer by the looks of things into 8th place. So that is a great start from Tom. Already gaining a couple of positions. Ben Eck is in front of the trio of Rudolph and Mark Stewart. And again, braking into that corner just sends the BMW spinning round. He needs to be careful on his re-entry. He's currently parked on the curb waiting for the traffic to go by, but that BMW is giving him a massive snap every time he goes into that corner. So Cameron Hawes has now gone up into P1. It looks like there's been a mistake by Joe Coffin and has allowed Cameron to take the lead. New best lap there, you can see 105.3 from Cameron. We got DNF for Antonio Notta, who doesn't make a finish here in the first race of the evening. Dan all over the back now of Coffin, with Cameron Hawes making a leap for glory. Definitely had the race pace. Qualifying pace was all Coffin and looked largely untouchable. If you are wondering why there are ads, it's because we've now reached 1,000 followers on YouTube and we have an opportunity to monetize things, which everything helps goes to support the Formula Racing League. So please stay tuned in the ads, it helps us. Every penny goes a long way. Adrian Samsel trying to put some pressure on Andy Withers. Andy has made a little bit of a gap. Ben Eck, seems like he's managed to make a tour of the circuit, but it's all the way down in P19 position. As we can see there the gaps in terms of the drivers. So we have Cameron Hawes leading the way by 0.7 of a second. Is Ben got enough pace to make a move on Mark Stewart into this right-hander? No, he does not. He'll be hoping in the next couple of corners. This is where Ben has experienced problem. Mark runs a little bit wide, opening up the door for Ben to make a move down the inside potentially. He needs to be careful as once again getting some lovely glitches in terms of the racing action. So he's going to try and go all the way around the outside potentially, Ben. Or no, he's going to look to go down the inside, praying that BMW doesn't lock his wheels and slams through Mark Stewart. But Mark is defending well, although he's losing a little bit of touch with Thomas Bate in front. Dave Goodway is all the way in 16th position. 6 minutes gone in race 1. Ben gets a little bit squirrely on exit of the final corner. So in terms of our battle all the way up the front of the track, trying to get things to change, we have Cameron Hawes up in P1. Second place Dan Davis in that Hyundai. Then we have Joe Coffin in 3rd place. This is our battle for 1st place between these three very, very quick drivers. It's ebbing and flowing in terms of the battle. There's a mistake by Dan Davis, and up the inside goes Joe Coffin to get back his 2nd place. So his pursuit now begins on Cameron Hawes in front. Fastest lap of the race so far has been completed by Dan Davis, with 104.979. Back down in 5th place, we have a freeway fight between Duffin, Solowski and Badotto. Just 5 tenths of a second separating these 3 cars into the braking zone. 3 very different lines and approaches to that corner, and all drivers managed to make it through. Back to our fight up for P1, going through the hairpin. Cameron's kicking up quite a bit of dust to the drivers behind. I have an idea what I could do for race 2 to stop this lagging. Sorry, I'm trying to think of ways to stop things from jittering around and causing us issues. There it is, Matthew Duffin now. It's going to be it's a 4-way fight with Alan Palmer clawing onto the back of this battle. So slightly, they're going to try and go 3 wide through turn 1. Probably not the best thing to do. Duffin is going left and right. Carry as much speed as possible without getting any track warnings on exit. Just gonna attempt to stop this lagging on the Hock. Right, let's try and sort that out for race 2 and not deter from any of this action going on in front of us. So Matthew Duffin has managed to get a little bit more of a lead over Marcin Solowski and Andrea Badotto, but fighting up front, these 3 drivers are closer than they have been before, of Hawes, Coffin and Davis. These potentially could be 3 drivers fighting for the championship. Need to be careful of no rear end action. Don't forget you can follow us on all our social media searching for FRL Race Hub, and I promise it won't be as glitchy as this. Let's try and go with that. Right, let's see if this helps us out at all. We got just over halfway through the race. We have Hawes, Coffin and Davis who have been going at it hammer and tong. Just in the distance you can see Sam Exton in 4th place, 10 minutes remaining. As you can see, into the braking zone for turn 1. Not really much of a braking zone, it's just more about carrying as much speed as you can. Let's have a look for our early fallers. We got Dave Goodway, who's made his way up into 12th place. Next on his hit list is 11th place David, who is just 1.7 seconds in front. Benjamin Eck falling foul of a couple of lock brakes in 17th place on his own, trying to chase down Thomas Vate. But all the way up in P1 we have Hawes, Coffin and Davis. Sam is just waiting in the wings, 1.9 seconds behind, and hoping for a mistake or any form of contact between these 3 drivers. But everything has been done so far very cleanly and professionally by Hawes, Coffin and Davis. Last time, let's have a look at the laps and see what they're currently pushing out. So last time around, 106s for all 3 drivers, 106.2 from Cameron, 106.5 from Dan Davis. Cameron's desperately trying to pull away from these 3, and it is unable to do so, although it's lapping slightly quicker, but just not by much. Andrea Badotto outbraked himself, and so did Matthew Duffin by the looks of things, which has given Solowski absolute free rein. Like the Red Sea, they parted the waves, and Marcin moves up into P5. Martin Morel is another one of those drivers you would expect it to be right at the front of the grid, currently in P9, just ahead of David. Dave Goodway is now up to 11th position after a mistake. Benjamin Eck is all over the back of fellow BMW driver Thomas Veit. Just in the distance you got Techie Tom, who's falling a little bit far from Grace for his own personal liking, but these three drivers are still going at it. 7.5 minutes left of race 1. Remember, the grid for race 2 will be set by the positions of these drivers in race from race 1. So if you finish first in race 1, you will be first in race 2, second, third, fourth. Dan Davis looking for an opportunity to slide his car up on the inside. Remember, for the latest versions of these cars, they will have push to pass enabled, which gives them an extra little bit of boost. For the older versions, the 21 cars, they will not have that available to them, but they will be lighter and a little bit quicker. So not quite evened it out. Oh, Dan's going to try and make a move on the inside. Little bit of door-to-door action. Going through the final corner, Dan has managed to squeeze his way through Joe Coffin and has moved up into second position. That was a brave move. And fortunately, Joe Coffin was very compliant. However, last time this happened, I think Dan made a mistake and allowed Joe Coffin back through. We have multiple drivers in the battle for 6 of Duffin, Palmer, Morel, David and David Goodway is back on track fighting, trying to get back in these positions. But let's have a quick look at Dan and Joe. Joe looked pretty angry with being forced out and is desperately trying to make a move back on Dan Davis as they go through the Vettel left-hander. Remember, this is the shorter version of the circuit, so laps are only 1.6 miles long. The second to last corner now. Dan is now trying to push right up onto the back of Cameron. Joe kind of kept the distance quite consistently, a couple of tenths of a second, whereas Dan looks now like he's attempting to push. He's just the front row seat for any action or any moves that try and take place in turn 1. Last season, right at the beginning. Oh, Dan's gone at the inside. Dan's gone up the inside, getting the power down. We'll have the outside line for the next 2 corners. And they go a free ride through the left-handed. Joe decides he's going to abandon that Cameron and now loses out the inside. Dan loses it out completely and destroys the bollards. That moves Joe Coffin back up into first place. Cameron Hawes in second, and I think Dan is also going to lose out from Sam Exton, and indeed he does, as Dan runs wide on multiple corners in order to try and regain control of his vehicle. He is now from second place all the way back down into 4th place with 4 minutes left of the race. Joe Coffin is now in a position where he is the one hunting down Cameron Hawes. Cameron has been chased predominantly throughout this race. It's going to be those drivers who've looked after those medium tyres may have the opportunity to make a move for the win, and anyone who has scrubbed those tyres far too much will be suffering. Going for a little bit of a switchback, Joe Coffin. Not a move to be made there, unfortunately. We got Dan in the background with Sam Exton fighting away. We're going to stay with our battle for P1. We've got just over 4 minutes left of the race. Massive fight going on for 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th, with Dave Goodway in 9th place. Another good fight, but where is Ben? Ben's dropped back down into 8th position, so I can only assume that he has gone off the track. We have Chris Jones 10 laps down, is out of the pits. Antonio Notta is our only, well, we have Andy Vitcher and Domenico Panto have been our 3 DNFs so far. Dan Davis looking for an opportunity on Sam Exton, going through the final corner now. That's a very nice custom livery from Sam. I would like to see the colours, but honestly I do not have a clue what they are. Going through into turn 1, you see that slight downshift and easing off the throttle in order to keep control into the braking zone. And there's going to be rear contact. No, there is not. Coffin 0.6 of a second, as we can see from Cameron. Let's have a look at our fight for P6. Is Duffin going to make a move up the inside? And it looks as though Dave Goodway has made that move up the inside and into 6th place. Matthew now down into 7th place. Martin is the driver just in front. Then you've got, so in this multiple driver chase, you've got Solowski, Goodway, Duffin, Morel and Drugalopnecki. David. I'm going to just go with David. Car number 4. So lots of drivers jostling for track position and just 2 minutes left in this race. A little bit of rear end contact, but nothing to disturb the vehicles. That's the one thing about these Btcc cars. It takes a lot to shove them off the track. Door to door, front to rear action doesn't necessarily disturb these cars as much as other forms of motorsport, so they are very durable. And punt to pass is probably a well-known phrase in the Btcc circuit. Let's have a look at Dan has gained gained P3 back from Sam Exton and is now going to try and chase down Joe Coffin for that 2nd place. Martin and Dave Goodway. Dave Goodway is making a tremendous recovery drive. Martin goes extremely deep and gifts the position to Dave Goodway. Martin will now be hoping that he can hold on to P6, which he has managed to do from David. Matthew Duffin's dropped down into P11. Can only assume a little bit of a mistake from the British driver. Cameron Hawes currently now 1.3 seconds away as we approach the final lap of the race. I will attempt to try and make a change to the browsers before the start of race 2. So Sam Exton dropped down into 4th place. Dave Goodway in 5th place. Martin in 6th. David in 7th. Martin in 8th. Martin Morel in 8th place. Alan Palmer, the Mr. VR, in P9. It's going to be David thinking about making a move. Is he going to try and send it down to the inside? This will be the last lap of the race for these drivers. However, Cameron Hawes approaching the final corner. Is this going to be the last lap? 3, 2, 1, and it is indeed, I think. Who knows? We're going to have one more lap. It looks as though Cameron just crossed the finishing line before the timer was up, so we'll have one more lap of racing action. We've got Dan Davis in 3rd place, and now back under pressure from Sam Exton, maybe hoping that was the end of proceedings for this race. Dave Goodway again on his own in P5. Davies moved up into P6. Martin Solowski in 7th. Martin Morel in 8th place. Alan Palmer in 9th. Andrea Badotto in 10th place. We have just our 3 DNFs for our first race of the evening, but coming through the final sector of this race is Cameron Hawes. Qualified quite high up the grid and managed to battle his way up into P1. Had constant pressure from Joe Coffin, Dan Davis for the majority of the race, but will come across to be our first Btcc Season 2 Race 1 winner. Joe Coffin will finish in 2nd place, Dan Davis in 3rd, Sam Exton in a very commendable P4th. Dave Goodway just coming through the final couple of corners now. Will take P5 with David Drugalowski in P6, Martin Solowski in P7, heading up Martin Morel, Alan Palmer and Badotto, who clings on to the end of that. Matthew Duffin will finish in P11 with Thomas Veit in P12, Adrian Samsel in P13. 13, with Rudolph Brio in 14th place, Harrison Williams in 15th place, and Mark Stewart in 16th place. Tom Brunel, Techie Tom, in 17th place. Benjamin Eck will be disappointed and is in the pits in 18th. Panto with a DNF. Chris Jones managed to get from the pits in P20th. Andy Withers, another DNF in P21. And Antonio Nota in P22. I'm going to try and fix my stream as we prepare for race 2. Right, well, we are back, and we are hoping it's going to be run a little bit smoother in terms of the start of this race. Thank you for being patient with me. I'm hoping that the browser side of things works, but I don't hold my breath for it. Otherwise, you'll have to rely on the commentary genius that is myself for race 1. So let's get the timing box up so we have a couple of seconds to go into the beginning of this race, and we are go for race 2. We have Hawes, Coffin, Davis, Exton, Goodway, David, Martin. So poor start from Coffin on the right hand side. So there was a lot of Coffin fans in the chat pre-race. As we go down into turn 1, a very clean and good start from Cameron as all the drivers head into the right-hander. Exton has moved, is in nicely positioned in fourth place. As the battle goes on into the right-hand hairpin. By the looks of things, yes, it is. Is Coffin going to try and go the long way round, or potentially look for the undercut? Bounces across the curb and goes alongside Cameron. There's contact, but they just both. And this is what I was mentioning earlier about the durability of these cars. Hawes will have the inside line for the next left-hander, but will Coffin be able to outbrake and go around the outside? And that is a terrific move. Contact on the exit, and more contact, but no death, as Coffin moves up into P1 with Cameron Hawes right on his tail. Flash of the brake lights, and Coffin is leading the way from Hawes, from Davis, from Exton, from Goodway, from David, from Morel, from Badotto, from Solowski, from Duffin is our top 10. But all the drivers managed to get away nice and cleanly from the start. And away they go. Can I do this? Yes, I can do that. Right, we have time reports. We have stuff. And it all seems to actually be working. Oh, that doesn't. Let's get rid of that one. So we have information, which is nice. So our leader is Coffin by 0.3 of a second from Davis. We see Chris Jones has managed to start this. We've only had 19 drivers, so we've lost Notta by the looks of things from the grid. As Palmer racing, let's hope he is. I can't see his name on my quick scan through the list. But we have Hawes 0.1 of a second behind Coffin in first place. We have Exton. We saw a lot of fans of Exton in the chat in the quick break through the races, but Coffin is trying to defend the inside line as Hawes attempts to go around the outside. Dan Davis is a waiting spectator to see if any incidents occur and any opportunities arise for him to go into the top 2 positions. Remember, he was last season's champion, but we had a lot of new entries onto the grid, including our top 2 drivers, as Hawes gets a little bit bumpy going through the exit. Exton in 4th place, waiting for an opportunity. Goodway, as always, there on the top of the timing charts. Can he bring that into race performance? Then there's a little bit of a gap to David in 6th place, Martin in 7th, Badotto in 8th, Duffin in 9th, Solowski in 10th place. And is that Hawes making a move down the inside as Coffin has been forced to run wide? Now has Dan Davis going up the inside. Little bit of contact, and is Exton going to get through? So is Coffin going to go from 1st down to 4th? Exton and Davis are fighting for their lives to try and hold on to 2nd place from Davis and Exton, and they're still going at it into the left-hander. Coffin overshoots it and drops all the way to 5th place, which has promoted Exton and versus Goodway, who's now up to 3rd place, and Davis is in 2nd place. Meanwhile, Cameron Hawes is rubbing his hands together and he's getting a little bit of a free rein. Goodway has to go defensive in the braking zone. Exton attempts to make a move as Davis fighting for every single inch of rubber he has access to, but can Goodway now make a move on Dan Davis in 2nd place and begin to try and close down Cameron Hawes in 1st place? We've lost Benjamin Eck is in 14th place. So I'm just trying to have a quick scan of the two drivers. Definitely Nota was one of them. Bodotto is still in the grid in P8. I can't see Palmer. Has VR struck again, fighting down into turn 1, and Exton is remaining extremely interested as Goodway goes to the move down the inside. A nice easy switch back from Dan Davis has now put Dave Goodway under pressure from Exton. Exton will go round the outside, have the outside line again for this long left-hander as he gains the position from Dave Goodway. So Exton now moves up into 3rd place. But a terrific fight once again right at the front of the field. There's action going from 11th down to 14th as well. We'll try and get there is Techie Tom sporting a new livery for the season, fighting it with Harrison Williams in 12th place. Vate is just behind with Eck in 14th. Brio in 16th is having to fight off Notta as we see a driver disappear. I think that is Harrison Williams who's gone off into the gravel. But meanwhile, front of the grid is Cameron Hawes leading the way by just over a second. Exton right behind Dan Davis in 2nd place. Exton now going off the track to try and get the momentum down into the right-hander. Get my lefts and right. Lefts and right. Yeah. That seems to make sense. But Dan Davis managed to retain onto P2. Exton keeps P3 with Dave Goodway bearing down on him in P4. Let's have a little bit look further back down the grid as Thomas Vate is just about to be overtaken by Benjamin Eck up into 12th place, and that has duly happened. Although Vate goes down the inside, Eck has to take evasive action in order to avoid any contact. But now Eck is all over the back, and so far all over the back, he's actually gone through the back of him. And Thomas Vate, unfortunately, is the victim. Ben needs to be careful about his rejoin. So does Vate. There goes the 50-meter board. Let's have a look back at what's happening in our top 3. JR, hello, hope you are well. Is Dan going to make a move down on the inside? He has made a move on down the inside, has moved up to P1. And must have been a mistake by Cameron Hawes in the last lap. And now Exton's going to try and make first turn to not quite sure what happened to Dan Davis there, but all that's happened is allowed Hawes to gain, go up, back up into P1, Exton in P2, and Dave Goodway is trying to keep. Oh no! Death. It looked as though to me Goodway didn't want to give any of the track back to Dan Davis. It's going to be a fun one for the stewards, but all that means is Hawes now has a 3.3 second lead over Exton in 2nd place. Goodway controversially in 3rd place. Joe Coffin has now come back up into 4th place and is trying to chase down Dave Goodway in 3rd place. Drukolowski is in 5th place now, just behind the top 4. Dan Davis is now all the way back down in 6th place and is going to have some work to do in order to claim any of those podium spots, with Marcin Morel in 7th place. Meanwhile, 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th of Jones, Vate, Eck and Notta are going at it as Notta makes an elbows out move to move up into 17th place from Benjamin Eck. They're going to go side by side, and once again there is an incident involving Benjamin Eck, and this time Antonian Notta, but that's given Adrian Samsil the opportunity to move, has dropped down to 19th, Notta in 18th place. Let's go back to our top 2nd to 3rd drivers of Exton, Goodway and Coffin, separated by just a couple of seconds. And almost half the race gone already, and almost half of our evening gone. We have just one more race after this, which will be a reverse grid, which promises to be interesting, judging by some of the overtakes that have been made so far in this race. David putting pressure, is having the pressure put on him by Dan Davis. Dan Davis is going to try and go for that move down the inside, goes alongside on the exit. Is he going to be able to get the power down early enough to get past Martin? It will have the inside line, providing he takes as much of the grass as he possibly can get away with. Again, on exit of the second to last corner, jumps across the curb, back on track. Now we'll have the inside line going into the fast right-hander, is alongside as they cross the start-finish line. Will Dan Davis keep 5th position? It looks as though he does, although Martin is not going to give it away any easier. It's definitely not candy from a baby, and in fact Martin keeps hold of 5th position miraculously, with some stout defending over Dan Davis. Terrific racing action going on for 5th place. Will now try and sneak to the inside line. No, Martin defends it into the braking zone. Tyres squealing at that BMW just in front. A little bit wider on exit, struggles over the bumps, and that allows Dan Davis to snap back in. Dave Goodway is now up into 2nd position from Exton, from Coffin. Cameron Hawes has a lead of 2.4 seconds, but that lead can be snapped away in a second. With just one mistake. This track has been punishing so far for some of these drivers, as we have a yellow flag in sector 3, and Dan Davis has dropped down to 8th position. Directly in front we've got Martin Morel, Matthew Duffin, and Andrea Badotto going into turn 1, and that will remain Duffin, Morel, Badotto. Coffin and Exton going at it for the final podium position, but a slight gap has developed, and Goodway is just ahead of this trio. This time now has a different proposition of Joe Coffin instead of Sam Exton chasing him down, but the pace of these top 4 drivers in both race 1 and race 2, obviously Dan Davis should be involved in any reckoning of quickest guys on the field, has been absolutely fantastic, and a welcome addition when Theodore hopefully manages to get back in for round 2. Dan Davis has now gone from 8th position back up into 6th place. As his charge back for the field continues. We'll have Matthew Duffin, his teammate and friend, as the next driver on his hit list, as we see Andrea Badotto just behind Martin Morel. Martin not really having the best of time in the Astra so far in this event and this season. We also have lots of fights further down the field. We've got Rudolph and Martin Solowski. Rudolph looks as though he has managed to gain the position, a little bit of contact with the rear, as Rudolph managed to keep hold of it going through that fast right-hander of turn 1 into turn 2, and Rudolph successfully makes that move up into P12. Benjamin Eck is just on the rear of these from Domenico Panto. Panto's looking at a move on Martin Solowski, as we have cars flying off the track. Now the question, where does the line stop when it comes to teammates and friends? I think it's not in this race, as that was an easy move to allow Dan Davis to move up to 5th place over Matthew Duffin. I was wondering if the two friends would go hammer and tong at each other, and they don't. Fight at the front of the grid. We have Cameron Hawes. Now that gap's only just got dropped from 3 seconds to 1 second now from Dave Goodway, and just dipping under the 1 second barrier. So Dave is definitely captured. Then we have Dan Davis in 5th place, followed closely by Matthew Duffin, Martin Morel and Andrea Badotto in 8th place. Techie Tom is in a very credible 9th place, with David Jolosnicki Elgeki just behind in 10th place. Further down the grid, Eck has moved up to 13th place, Panto in 14th, Zalowski in 15th place. Back to the front of the grid, that gap is now under 1 second. And Dave Goodway is in very good company with Joe Coffin chasing him down. So a lot of these drivers are running their own custom liveries in this event. You can see 2 of our top 3 drivers are certainly, and it's taken a lot of time, effort and skill and attention to detail to create these things. I have no idea. I just paste braves and links into OBS and hope they work. Is Joe Coffin going to make a move down the inside? Oh, he does, and Dave Goodway tries to close that gap whilst the driver was alongside, and that has allowed Joe Coffin to make into 2nd place. And that was a terrifically brave and very skilled move, and also interesting driving from car number 34. And our fight right at the back of the grid is Sam Sill and Antonio Nota. You see Nota bouncing over the curbs, trying to get position on Sam Sill in for our last position. So far, no DNFs. We've got just over 4 minutes remaining of our race 2. See Dave Goodway is trying to get back into 2nd place, but there's, I think, the moves on Dan Davis and the defensive move on Joe Coffin maybe under review from the stewarding team after the race, shall we say. Marcin Morel, 7th place for him, just ahead of Andrea Badotto. Tom Brunel, you can see fighting just in the rear with David, and in fact has just lost position and then gained it back and then lost it on the exit. That is terrifically clean racing by David, and full congratulations to him. So that is 3 minutes left of the race. And remember, this is race 2 of 3. We have 1 more race remaining after this, and I'm just going to pray my computer doesn't crash again. Well, my game doesn't crash, shall we say. So back to the front. 1 second gap between Hawes and Coffin. Another 1 second to Dave Goodway in 3rd place. Sam Exton is 5.2 seconds behind. Then we have a bit more of a gap to Dan Davis in 5th place for 15 seconds. Matthew Duffin in 6th place, 17 seconds behind. Then we have Morel, Badotto, David and Tom Brunel bringing up our top 10 places. Sam has just got a little bit detached from the top 3, but once again a terrifically combative race by Sam. Just over 2 minutes left, and we'll be hoping that we'll be looking to capitalise on any mistakes from our current top 3 podium sitters. Marcin Morel is under pressure from Andrea Badotto as they go through the final quarter. Looking on board with Andrea, is he going to try and think about slipping one up the inside? No, he is not, and rather sensibly so. Delaying the throttle, trying to stay within track limits once more. Looks at the inside, shows his nose to Marcin just in front. Marcin barrels through the dirt into this left-hander now. Then we go left, right into the tricky hairpin. Lots of drivers have different strategies depending on the cars they are in. Lighter cars are able to kind of swing their car through that section, bouncing through the chicane, through the long right-hander now, keeping the car as close to the curbs as possible. Drift over to the left-hand side, into the Vettel left-hand hairpin. Getting that power down again, so we've got Morel just at the front of this trio of Badotto and David. Tom having a nice race in P10. Huge, and we have a penalty to Dave Goodway. Can only assume that would be down to track limits. So Sam will now, depending on the length of that penalty, will look to try and capitalise and move up into 3rd position and catch a podium. Not sure what that penalty is, and I have no information to see what it is. But our current race winner, is this gonna? Are we gonna have one more lap after this, or will this be our final lap? So I think potentially we will have one more lap after this. Yes, we certainly will. 10 seconds left as the drivers cross the line. Now, so we'll have one more lap of action for all of these drivers to gain a position, and what all could actually go to pot when the reverse grid happens. We will wait confirmation from the admin team of what the grid positions will be between race 2 and race 3. So Thomas Veit fighting out with Rudolph and Marcin Solowski just behind. Benjamin Eck has moved up into 12th place, currently chasing down Harrison Williams in 11th place. Tom Brunel 10th, Badotto in 8th place. Some very wide lines. Badotto's lost a place. Tom Brunel's moved up to 9th place now, and he is heading up this quartet of drivers, and he will be absolutely bouncing in his chair on being able to produce that. And Badotto's gone! Badotto's gone! Oh! Badotto's gone and collides with Benjamin Eck. And is that the end of Badotto? That is the end of Badotto. Going across the start-finish line, Cameron Hawes led right from the beginning to claim our race 2 win. So that is a double effort from him. Joe Goffin gets 2nd place from Sam Exton in 3rd place. Dan Davis will claim 4th place. Dave Goodway with that penalty is falling down the grid, so Duffin gets 5th place. David claims 6th place. Then we've got Marcin Morel in 7th place. We have now Dave Goodway is in the pits. Tom Brunel bounces across, but will play. So Goodway gets 8th place. Brunel gets 9th. Benjamin Eck gets a top 10 finish. Harrison Williams in 11th place. Dominic Panto in 12th. Thomas Veit in 13th place. Rudolf Brio in 14th. Solowski is in the pits, but it's 15th place. Chris Jones will claim 16th place. Notta will claim 17th place. Samsil 18th. And Badotto has an unfortunate did not finish to his record. And hopefully the stream performed a lot better there in race 2 with those amendments. But there were some controversial moves. There was some great racing by all the drivers. But I think the top 3 drivers thoroughly deserved it in Hawes, Coffin and Exton. Don't forget, we still have one more race remaining of tonight's action. So please make sure you stay tuned. So just having a look at the chat. Della's my favourite driver. James, my favourite Sheffield person. Yes, I am. I'm sure the UI move. Yes. James Gerrity says, let's go, Joe. Plava says, come on, Dan Davis. Ollie, we're all Joe Coffin here, aren't we? And Adi says, he is a Harrison Williams enjoyer. I'm also a firm Sam Exton enjoyer, but he supports Bournemouth. So loses all my respect. Do they get bananas to spin other cars, or is it just not type of race? We can look to see what we can do. As Maddie Miller says, get a petition going for Ollie. That's a great idea. I could be Sam Exton on foot looking on looking at his pace. And Maddie Miller says huge moves from Coffin. So hopefully that was a better comms performance with less glitches. But remember, we do have one more race on our cards. I'm just waiting for the grid to be announced to me, and then I can give you the latest information. Admins are just setting up the server ready for race 3. And to be honest, I think that's what Btcc racing is all about. There were lots of minor contacts, and I'll just talk about the minor contacts during that race, and a little bit of push to pass, but largely very, very clean, close, hard racing on a very, very short, on an extremely short circuit with quite a few drivers on it. So yes, let's hope. Has it gone funny again? It does look as though, because nothing is happening. My end. Yes, there we go. Close the program. So I'll keep talking to you, but I will just play the back zoom screen while I reset the game. The one thing about this game, it is absolutely fantastic for the racing aspect, but it is extremely glitchy, shall we say. So just to recap all our events, our run on our SimGrid page. So if you search for hosts and you look for the top host, that is Formula Racing League. We compete in numerous events across the racing catalogue on Formula 1 2023, on rFactor 2 as we got tonight. Predominantly on Assetto, Corsa, Competizione, based on console, and of course on PC. We just held our very, very successful round 1 at the Hungaroring for our 2024 endurance series. Round 2 will take place at Donington Park on the 4th of February. And round 3 will be at Valencia, before we have a little bit of our spring break to tackle the twisting turns of Suzuka. So our grid for race 1, final race of the evening, will be Andrea Bedotto in 19th place, Adrian Samsel in 18th place, Antonio Notta will be in 17th place, Chris Jones will be in 16th, Marcin Solowski will be in 15th place, Cameron Hawes will have to fight his way all the way up from 14th, with Joe Coffin in 13th, Sam Exton will be in 12th, Dan Davis will start 11th. Matthew Duffin will start in 10th place, and David Delocecki will be in 9th. Martin Morell in 8th, Dave Goodway in 7th after that penalty received. Tom Brunel will be in 6th, Benjamin Eck in 5th, Harrison Williams in 4th, Panto in 3rd place, with Vate in 2nd, and Rudolf Brier will be top of the tree for our final race of the evening. So we have just a couple of seconds remaining. So my game is back up, and game capture, there we go. So my game is back up. Don't want to do that. Try and figure out why the browser isn't working. So we've had our grid set for our final race of the evening. We're just waiting for the end of the practice second. As you can see, the checkered flag is flying down, and the drivers will now commence starting to line up on our grid. So just to recap, it will be Brio from Vate, from Panto, from Williams, from Eck, from Brunel, from Goodway, from Morel, from Dlukosknecki, from Duffin, from Davis, from Exton, from Coffin, from Hills, from Solowski, from Jones, from Notta, from Samsel, from Badotto will bring up the rear for our final race. So Brio has raced last season here in Formula Racing League, will have an opportunity to lead the field away for the final race of the evening. It will be alongside Vate, will be alongside Williams as our top three. Eck will be one to watch in fourth place. If he manages to get a lead and manages to keep the car on track and away from other vehicles, we'll have an opportunity to breeze away. I'm waiting for the klaxons to sound to kick off our final 20-minute race of the evening. And we are... Go? That didn't...
Attention grid, all non-essential personnel leave the grid now.
And that was a false start. We all got excited and ready to go, and I think they've realised something was not right. And drivers will now have the opportunity to reset back to the grid. We've got Brio back on the grid. A little bit of a false start. I was all ready to get going then. I'm sure the drivers were too. But we will have take two for the final race of tonight. I have absolutely no idea what's going on, but that looked as though it was another false start as we've gone into a short practice session. As we've now managed to get a grid of 20 drivers back in. Hoping we'll manage to get away soon. So I'm just trying to keep up with the chat and see what's going on. So it looks as though there was potentially a number of drivers who were unable to get back in to the server. So Joe Coffin looked as though he was one of them. Well, so I think so it looks as though we have a field accounted for. We will have a couple of minutes warm up with the delay between race 2 and 3 has largely been caused by unfortunately drivers getting inadvertently removed, and then the admins trying to get everyone back into the server again. So yes, wrong button. We are back on the grid, and will it be third time lucky for the drivers going out on track? So almost tempted not to do a countdown. Guys, I've got a 6 o'clock train to catch in the morning. We need to get away. So we have 21 drivers in on the grid. We've got Alan Palmer in as our 21st. Number of drivers now. We can see Vate, we can see Panto, we can see Williams, we can see Eck. Further down the grid, it doesn't look as though there are any spaces left out on track. So we will go and hope for third time lucky. Rudolph Brio has our pole position, and we are go for the final race of the evening. Brio gets a fantastic start, and so does Panto directly behind. Vate is left a bit standing still. Remember, there will be some very, very quick drivers coming back through the grid as Rudolph Brio has an off track. Oh, a little bit of contact, and Panto goes straight on at turn 1. There is Eck. Is that Eck? Yes, that does look like Eck. Has the lead going down into the sector 2. So what was that? Vate. It's not Eck. It's Thomas Vate has the lead. Too many same livery BMWs, but Thomas Vate has the lead from Brio from Panto. And suddenly, somehow our top 3 drivers largely remains the same. We've got Martin Morell trying to fight his way through the traffic. We've got lots of dust kicking up. Is that Dan Davis making contact? That was indeed Dan Davis making contact. And Dan Davis makes contact again as the the messed up grid is certainly causing some victims here in Hockenhiem. Cameron Hawes is down in 21st position. Right at the back of the grid, as that's Panto there coming back on. Mark Stewart is trying to hang on to the back of Alan Palmer from Noto, but Dotto is having a few issues going into the turn 1, but manages to keep hold of his position. Chris Jones up into 14th place, Benjamin Eck, and there's more death there at turn 1, as you can see. One of those drivers involved is Harrison Williams. It was just complete and utter carnage and death, and a lot of drivers probably just holding their breath and hoping that they can get through. As we're on board now with Joe Coffin, looking for a move on David into 8th place. Slides one successfully down the inside, and that's probably one of the cleanest moves of the day. Definitely one of the cleanest moves here in race 3. Next on his list will be Sam Exton, who's currently in 7th position, but that 7th position is trying to overtake 6th position of Dan Davis, who's then looking to try and overtake Martin Morell in 5th place. New best lap, Dave Goodway is up into 2nd position already, and he's going to try and get a march on all his adversaries who are fighting their way through the grid. You can see Dan Davis trying to get up the inside of Martin Morell to try and get that move done. A lot of these drivers are trying to get as many positions gained as possible in the early laps. We've got Dan Davis and Coffin and Exton going side by side into the hairpin. We've got Dan Davis running very wide and losing multiple positions and claiming Coffin as well. Oh. There's Coffin trying to get back one on Benjamin Eck, which he's managed to do. Our leader currently is Thomas Veit, who has the lead in the BMW from Goodway from Brio in 3rd place. Our pole sitter from race 3, Marcin Morel, currently leads Sam Exton. Sam Exton's just giving the driver a little bit of a flash in front as they go into turn 1. Martin needs to have a sign on the back of his car going, "Do you not know who I am?" Sam Exton definitely does not, and sends one up the inside, and that is contact from Exton, and managed to get back onto the track. There has been some interesting moves, shall we say? Let's hope for a clean move. So Goodway is going to attempt to go around the outside as Thomas Veit. Veit defends the inside line and manages to get the power down successfully and move away. Goodway is looking left and right over Thomas Veit. Veit has accounted for himself quite well on his first races here in Formula Racing League and is hoping to hang on to this first position for as long as possible. But we've got a multiple-time Formula Racing League champion chasing him down all the way from the PlayStation 4 Assetto Corsa Competizione days to PlayStation 5 to PC. Dave Goodway goes up the inside, and Veit is extremely compliant in allowing Dave Goodway to come through, so that allows Goodway to take control of the lead. Coffin is leading, is trying to chase down Marcin Morel. Marcin Morel in contact with Exton a few moments ago. Will be hoping and praying. A little bit of contact with the rear of Martin, sending him deep into the hairpin, but Martin manages to get the power down and move away. We've got a yellow flag in sector 2. Meanwhile, Benjamin Eck is just minding his own business, just trying to keep putting some laps in together. Cameron Hawes has now moved up into 11th place. Elef Solohowski, remember, there was a mixed grid for this race, which has put some quicker drivers out of position. Fastest lap of the race so far is a 105.498 by Dave Goodway. We're on board with Joe Coffin going into turn 1. Martin takes a slightly wider line. Coffin manages to keep it inside track limits. Will try and make a move down the inside, and that door was always going to close. But Coffin forces his way through and is now up to 5th place. Tom Brunel will be next on his hit list. Sam Exton is making a recovery drive and is now trying to chase down Benjamin Eck in 7th place. Cameron Hawes was flying up for the grid. Hold your brake. And now finds himself all the way back down in 20th place. Antonio Notta with a did not finish for our final race of tonight. Cameron Hawes is not finding it as easy when he's coming back through the rear of the grid. Managed to make himself up to P10. Coffin has an easy pass over Tom Brunel. Now Marcin Morel's going to want to try and overtake him as soon as possible. Another new fastest lap, this time a 104.798 by Dave Goodway. And is stretching that lead to 2.4 seconds in front. You see these drivers are 8, 9 and 10 seconds behind respectively. Tom Brunel a little bit in the sandwich with Marcin Morel, and Benjamin Eck has found some pace in his final race of the evening. Just under 13 minutes left of this race. Tom sends it a little bit deep, which has allowed Marcin Morel to fly past, and Ben Eck has to take a little bit of evasive action, but Tom allows Ben to come through. Now we've got Exton coming through as well from 7th to 8th place. Exton's going to try and send it up the inside and manages to do that successfully, and has moved himself up to 7th place. Coffin and Rudolf Brio into the final couple of corners. Coffin going to make the risky move, decides against it into turn 1. May look for the opportunity in turn 1, provided he can get a good exit from the from turn 1 in. Down on the inside, Brio gives Coffin ample space. We have a yellow flag in sector 1. So that moves Coffin up into 3rd place and an opportunity to go for overall round 1 win, especially considering Cameron's problems. But is now up into 17th place. Samsil is fighting with Chris Jones, or Dan Davis actually. Chris Jones is under pressure from David just behind. I thought that was half a car missing. It was just the pink rear end of the Long Smile Racing Team vehicle. So now Rudolph is a little bit of the cork in the bottle. See Tom disappearing very wide in the distance. So Rudolph is the driver in 5th place with Eck and Exton, with Martin Morel. Eck and Exton chasing him behind. Martin Morel is going to try and make this move as painless as possible to give himself an opportunity to move away from Eck, and Rudolph Brio in fact makes it extremely easy for him, loses those 3 positions by going extremely deep into the corner. Benjamin Eck now with Martin Morel heading towards the hairpin. Eck shapes up for the inside, is trying to get that big ass of that BMW round the corner. Martin Morel kicks up a little bit of dust. Exton is right on the rear of Eck as well, so any mistake from any of these drivers is just going to give them an opportunity. Eck has to go defensive, moves a little bit in the braking zone, but that allows somehow Eck to overtake Martin Morel as they go through the chicane. Halfway through this final race of tonight's action, and it's been frantic, it's been extremely stressful, and hopefully the quality of the stream has improved as it's gone. And now Exton is going to try and make the move on Martin Morel. A little bit of contact with the rear end, going to send it down the inside, and Exton has indeed gained that position and has moved up into 5th place after an instant packed first half of the race, as got his bearings together and has got back up into very, very good points paying positions as Martin Morel slowly starts to fall back down the grid. Dan Davis meanwhile is trying to get past Tom Brunel. Tom has allowed some of the drivers to make easier moves and is conscious of his own race as Dan goes round the outside and gets the power down. Next we have the chicane. They will go side by side. Dan Davis will have the inside line for the exit and gains 8th position next on his hit. Oh no, Tom's not giving this one up for a change. Tom has gone side by side through the final corner. Penalty to Cameron Hawes. That's going to put pay to what could have been a very good 3 races, and that's going to be a penalty given to Cameron. Dan Davis now up into 8th place. Tom Brunel back down in 9th place. A yellow flag in sector 3. There's a fight going on for 14th, 15th and 16th between the Spider Monkey Mark Stewart, Harrison Williams, who's under pressure from Alan Palmer, Mr. VR. Imagine how many races he would actually finish if he didn't have VR. So right at the front of the grid. So Thomas Veit is putting in lap times, which so a 106.4 that time around, and a 105.8 from Joe Coffin. So 0.6 of a second. Currently has 4.4 seconds lead from Joe Coffin. So there's a huge opportunity for Thomas Veit to get a podium position here of race 3. Didn't lose that much time trying to fight with Dave Goodway, who has romped away with the lead since taking 1st place. So yeah, has looked after his race completely. So we've had 3 DNFs so far of Nota, Badotto, Panto, and we have Cameron Hawes, who's just come out of the pits after serving his penalty in 18th place. So Dan Davis now is going to try and overtake Rudolph as we go into the Vettel hairpin. Trying to thread the eye of a needle through that chicane. Dan just gets extra traction coming out of the corners and is absolutely flown by Rudolph, and that increases his position from 8th to 7th place. Well done, Dan. Moving up through the grid, trying to have a little bit of a recovery drive after some early escapades. Had a recovery drive in race 2 after an incident, and has had an action-packed race 3 also. Marcin Morel now is a little bit on his own, has a 3-second gap, almost 4-second gap in front of him and a 2-second gap behind. Sam Exton up into 5th place, 2.5 seconds away from... Yep, that's probably better. 2.5 seconds away from Benjamin Eck, who currently is in 4th place in that very tricky BMW. And Joe Coffin all the way up into 3rd place. So let's have Cameron Horse is back in the pits again. So Joe Coffin is now 3 seconds behind Thomas Veit with 5 minutes left. So roughly 6 laps remaining of this race. Currently is gaining 0.6 of a second a lap. So it's going to get close, but I don't think, unless Thomas makes a mistake, he's going to get close enough to be able to make the move. Cameron Horse is back out of the pits for the final race of tonight. Probably a disappointing end to his first round of Btcc World Tour action after claiming wins in both race 1 and race 2. All the drivers are a little bit more spread than they have been, but our leader currently is Dave Goodway, just completing a lap on the car, and now it's just about hot laps, just trying to set lap after lap after lap, consistent, keeping it between the 2 white lines. Has a 7.1 second lead over Thomas Veit behind. Thomas Veit last time around 106.4, and this time Joe Coffin was slightly slower with 106.6, so 0.2 of a second gain that time from Thomas Veit. 2.8 seconds the gap between 2nd and 3rd. Benjamin Eck in 4th place, his best race of the evening so far. Sam Exton in 5th place. Then we got Marcin Morel and Dan Davis going at it as they head down towards the hairpin. Marcin Morel has lost quite a fair few positions. Dan Davis gets all out of shape, and so does Marcin Morel. And in fact, full credibility to Marcin, gives the position back, has realised that he cut the chicane. And then we've got Rudolph and David. David's going up the inside. Rudolph's going to try and defend this for all his might. He'll have the inside line for the next left-hander. And David's going to potentially try and do the undercut, get the traction, go side by side for the chicane, which he has got his nose ahead. Rudolph had to yield slightly, and David has indeed climbed up to 8th place. So two moves in quick succession, one by Dan Davis and one by Marcin. Christ almighty. One by David. So Matthew Duffin and Marcin Solodowski are directly behind these. We've got Alan Palmer in a freeway fight for 14th place. A little bit of contact with the rear end by Marcin. Some chatter between the races on what's acceptable in defence and what's not acceptable in defence, and a few drivers have certainly pushed the limits in that regard tonight. After it settled down, the racing has been very, very good. It's just taken a while to settle down. Now 9.8 seconds the lead between first and second, and when you say settle down, it's not settled down that much, because Marcin goes for a move up the inside, makes contact with Duffin, and then Marcin loses the position to Alan Palmer, who now moves up into 50th place. So this time Vate was a lot slower with a 107.3, and now that gap is down under 2 seconds. Benjamin Eck is running quite quickly as well, currently the fastest driver on track with a 105.8, 3/10 quicker than our current race leader. Joe Coffin's going to be hoping in the next 2 laps he has an opportunity to at least get within touching distance or spitting distance of Thomas Vate, who's currently in set P2. Duffin and Palmer are going side by side through the final corner. Duffin currently has the edge as we head down into turn 1. Is Palmer going to look to try and make the move? No, he is not. Very murky windscreen on Alan Palmer's car. Just under a minute left of a final round of action tonight. Remember, we have race 2 coming up next Monday. So Vate has a 1.5 second lead over Joe Coffin. Joe Coffin can now see Vate's car in front. That's going to give him extra incentive in the next couple of laps. Like last lap, Coffin was 0.3 of a second quicker. Don't think that gap's going to close enough. We have 17 seconds of this race remaining. There will be one more lap for these drivers to complete. As it looks like Dave Goodway's coming through a little bit of the... Oh, no, he's slowing down in the hope. No. And that will be a win from Dave Goodway, who claims P1, and I'm sure Thomas Vate will be quite happy with P2, and huge congratulations to him. Joe Coffin claims 3rd place. Benjamin Eck will claim a very credible 4th place. Sam Exton will claim 5th. Dan Davis will claim 6th after an eventful evening. Martin Morel will claim 7th place. David will claim 8th place just behind. Rudolph will claim 9th. Thomas Brunel is looking to claim 10th place from Chris Jones, closely following him behind. And then in the distance we've got Harrison Williams, who claims 12th. Mark Stewart coming through the chicane is looking to get number 13, unlucky for some. And then we've got Matthew Duffin and Alan Palmer coming through the final corner now. It looks like Matthew will manage to hold on to P14, Palmer P15. Yes. Martin will claim 16th position, and in the pits we've got Samsel, Hawes, Panto, Bodetto and Notta. So ladies and gentlemen, that is our round 1 of action completed. There were 2 wins produced by Cameron Hawes and 1 win on the final race by Dave Goodway. Some huge quality in terms of our debutants with Thomas Vate, Joe Coffin, Benjamin Eck, Sam Exton, David Lukowski, Matthew Duffin, Samsil, Hawes as well, Panto and Bodotto and Notta. So it's a pleasure to have you guys on the grid, and hope you are all looking forward to our round 2. Let's have a quick check on the chat. So nothing was raised. So please make sure you tune in to our Taco Tuesday racing action tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. for our PlayStation 5 round 1. You will get the action of the pro drivers in our server 1, brought to you by the wonderful Tom Keynes. On Thursday night we'll have Chromedix bringing you the Masters on PC, and also the rookies will be brought to you by Aces. On then we have our late night racing, which will not be streamed. Please give the stream a like. Hopefully you've enjoyed my extremely stressed out antics this evening. Huge congratulations to our race winners of Cameron Hawes and David Goodway. We will go again for round 2, where everything will hopefully be a little bit better prepared. Wish you all the best. Good night.